Matt, 5th of May 2012 was the last time Exeter City played a home game in League One. Tomorrow you'll be taking your team out for the first one in 10 years. How does that make you feel?
Immensely proud of what we achieved last season. 5th of May 2012. That seems a long time ago. I don't know who that fixture was against, but we're looking forward to being back on home soil, home comforts, back in front of our fans. Hopefully they'll give us a fantastic reception. Hopefully we put in a performance which they'll be proud of. As always, we'll be giving it absolutely everything this weekend. A game to look forward to on the back of what was a positive first outing at Lincoln last weekend.
It was a 2-2 draw against Sheffield United. So there we go. Obviously, it's Port Vale on Saturday, preparing to take on a side that we only played 92 days ago, and a side that they've not changed too much over the summer either. So do you sort of prepare for this game the same way you prepared for the last one?
Yeah, pretty much. You touched on it there. They've not had too many changes. I think they've signed 5 or 6. We signed 2 at the moment, one being a goalkeeper. So they're playing outfield personnel haven't changed too much. We don't expect too many changes in both teams' style and maybe in shape and formation as well. But you can never predict too much. It's still early in the season. They might make some signings between now and the weekend. They might change shape. They might lose players with injuries. So you never quite go into full detail in terms of the opposition, but we have to look the same as what we did, certainly first half last weekend. And in terms of our home form for a number of seasons, how our home form has given us strength through a certain type of performance. And we've been very resolute, very hard to beat, and ground a lot of teams down at home by putting them under pressure. That's the way we want to start the game this weekend. New pitch, new league. Fans back in the stadium. Hopefully they come in good numbers and support us fantastically well, like they always do. I'm sure there'll be enough away fans there to generate a good atmosphere. But first home game of the season, you expect it to be a good atmosphere anyway.
That question I asked you about, they've not changed too much, preparing to take on a side we know well. I imagine that Port Vale are probably asking the same question about us to Darryl Clark.
Yeah, possibly. I think one of the few teams, I think it was only Port Vale and possibly Tranmere we didn't score against last season. And that was a big feat by the opposition because we generally scored goals in most games last season. A tight 0-0 away from home, and then obviously a 1-0 defeat last game of the season. So fine margins, tight games, not always pretty games, sometimes ugly and sometimes quite direct from both teams. Sometimes a match-up as well. Both teams play the same formation, same system, same principles. And so you're looking for moments of quality or errors from either team. But we've got a Forster run in this weekend. We've got another 44 games after this to look forward to. We're out to get some points this weekend. We learnt a lot about the group in their first outing at the League One level. I'm sure we'll have a few more answers to questions after this weekend come 5 o'clock on Saturday. But we have to do it in the right way, a respectful way where we keep our identity, keep that nucleus of good young players from our academy on that football pitch, and possibly given a chance, maybe make a few home debuts at League One level for other players.
You said at the end of that Lincoln game last week that while you're disappointed with the second half performance, you'd say, standing here in a few hours, I'll think about it and I'll be immensely proud of what we achieved today. Does that still stand?
Yeah, look, over the course of the game, it was the second half petered out into a type of game which didn't suit our players and didn't suit our personnel. We ran out of legs. Some people imploded in terms of their fitness aspects, something we're mindful of this weekend. But everything building into that first game was heightened. So maybe the cramp and the fatigue came a little bit earlier than expected. And we hope they're a bit fitter this weekend and a bit better prepared for what to expect and less pressure with less journey time, less travelling, less preparation at hotels and so on and so forth. So the adrenaline shouldn't really start flowing until 1:30, 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. But we're at home and we have to play well at home. We've done it for a number of seasons. Our home form has been excellent. And we hope our group will be stronger on the back of last season. Looking back on it, I was so pleased with the way we started the game. But as with all opposition, they've got every right to play well at certain times in games. And when they put us under a bit more pressure and took certain areas of space and success away from us, we had to find a different way of playing through that second half period. But they didn't cut us open and they didn't create too many chances. If anything, the disallowed goal and the save from the opposition goalkeeper from Josh Coley were the best chances in that second half period. We were disappointed, as I've said, with the manner of the opposition goal. And we'll look to be better in certain moments. But a point was a point. got us up and running. I'd have probably took it before the game. But as I said, after the game, I probably had mixed emotions immediately afterwards. As I had time to digest it, as you just asked in that question, and I was more and more pleased with the actual performance on that point on the road.
Sam Nombay limped off late in the second half. How's he come through training this week?
Yeah, he's been okay. We touch wood, we still think it was just cramp. We hope his cramp and Josh Coley's fatigue comes at a later stage this weekend. We know we can't afford to lose personnel off the pitch due to injury or cramp or fatigue, because we've only got a certain amount of players who are at that level at the moment. And Sam and Josh have been certainly part of that in pre-season. So we'll assess the team. We'll try and pick a single team moving forward. Certainly this weekend, there hopefully will be an addition in terms of possibly one or two of the new signings who might become available this weekend, and a couple of new faces in and around the squad for our fans to see. We would have liked more new faces. We know that the fans would have liked more new faces, but hopefully the main feeling going towards the weekend is one of excitement from the fans, but also one where they can appreciate what that group of players did last season.
Away from first team matters, the format of the Premier League Under-23 Cup has changed, which means Exeter are no longer eligible. I imagine you're extremely disappointed that the youth development aspect of that competition has sort of disappeared.
Yeah, well, that's a real shame. I know we're a Category 3 academy or Category 3 club, but we've competed pretty well in that competition, and it served us well. Served me fantastically well in terms of my time as a coach. We had some fantastic cup runs, but we've used it for exposure and experience for our young players, for minutes for senior players. It's a guaranteed 6 games of a certain level of fixture. We play our home games at the stadium. Not many of the bigger teams and the Category 1 and 2 teams do that. So we give the competition the full respect that it deserves. But unfortunately, we've not been able to get a place in that competition this season through no fault of our own. We don't like the decision, but we have to understand it and accept it. And maybe we can work to something in the future and the seasons to come where we can get back into a similar competition. But I am now conscious that we need to find a bit more game time at certain moments throughout the season for what could be our fringe players, our reserve players, but also those young players to get exposure against good quality opposition. We send them out on loan, but we still want them to get our principles of play with ourselves at every opportunity. So a real shame, but nothing the club can do about that, I'm afraid.
And finally, Dan Green and Connor Derbidge announced they were leaving the club this week. We've still got them for another month or so, but it's going to be a big miss, the pair of them. Yeah,
let's make the most of him for that month. Let's appreciate him, give him exactly what they deserve. I think Dan Green's been at the club for the best part of 15 years in a playing capacity and coaching within the academy and then first team as well. I can't speak highly enough of them both. Dan, especially in terms of what he's done for this football club. The current group of young players in the first team, who are almost household names now, came through under his guidance and development at under 18s level, and then he took this step into the first team and carried on nurturing those young men. He's turned them into fantastic people, along with their parents, along with their families, along with their support network. Dan's played a big part in turning that group of players into fantastic people. We forget about Joe Randall, who we sold for over £1 million as well. And within that has been some players who've left the club as well, who haven't quite made the step up, but they've always left in a better place, and that's pretty much down to Dan and the way he works. His commitment to the club has been second to none. He's a fantastic coach, but he's now got an opportunity which he wants to explore. He knows where he wants to get to in terms of his coaching career and his pathway, and we certainly can't stand in his way, and we wish him all the best. And then in terms of Connor's influence over the past couple of seasons, I'd like to think we were a fit team in League Two. I hope we'll be a fit team in League One. Obviously down to Connor, the work he does on the pitch, but also off the pitch, before training in the gym, after training in the gym, everything he provides in terms of nutrition and hydration and that whole S&C provision has gone to a new level. And we're grateful for Connor in relation to that. He's shaped it fantastically well for a young coach and a young S&C coach to come from Cardiff at the time with no first team experience. He settled in fantastically well, and the pair of them are such good people. A real shame because we'll miss them both, but you know, life moves on. It happens in any employment from in terms of businesses, and we have to now get our position right in terms of employing the right people to fit those positions. But you know, we understand what a big loss it will be to myself and the football club and the players. But you've just touched upon it there. We've got best part of a month. I hope they are really appreciated for the next month or so.